Yeah, what we're talking about has been coined a true psychological condition, which is church hurt. It's real. And so the thing we're trying to address today is for those of you who have been church hurt and you haven't had the opportunity to seek healing. We're just offering advice, not as professionals, we're not psychologists, but we do our research and we know people have been church hurt. So we're defining it and sharing with you that it is real and church hurt does happen and there needs to be healing from that.
And Brian, I think that's an important aspect that we need that people need to hear, right? Is the fact that it's real. It's real. What you're experiencing, what you're feeling is real.
Yeah.
Right. And so we started breaking that down earlier in the podcast. And so if you haven't heard that one, go back and listen to that before you listen to this aspect, because we're building kind of on that. We are breaking down biblically, like, what does the Bible say are the reasons for church hurt? Okay. Yeah. And we broke that down, that Jesus tells us, beware of some things. Number one, beware of false prophets. And we talked about what that was. Number two, beware of false teachers. We talked about what that was. And then the third one, which we just started to get into, which we're going to kind of break out a little bit more, is false brethren. Okay. The Bible talks about false brethren, false brothers, false family, people who say they're family, but not really. Jude talks about it quite a bit. And so I recommend going back and reading the book of Jude, because he kind of breaks that down. And he says that, Jude says that these are those that use the grace of God as an opportunity for their flesh. They reject authority. They revile those who should be honored. He calls them grumblers, malcontents, following after their own selfish desires. They are boastful, and they use flattery and show favoritism in order to gain advantage for themselves. And I think that's amazing. So many of the evidences that I see when we talk about false brethren are what comes out their mouth.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing.
And I'm going to add this because this is funny, not haha. But it's amazing to me how you can have someone you meet at church, they love God, raising their hands, singing the song, doing the dance, and you start kind of like vibing with them, man. You kind of digging that, like, I want to be more free. And then you start getting with them, and so now I'm about to defend the church because this happens way too much. But it's about false brethren. So they start coming over to you and be like, you start having a relationship conversation, and they're like, man, you really deep, man. You really love God, don't you? And I'd be like, yeah. Well, remember when he was talking, man, that really wasn't true. I can't find it in the Bible, but what he's saying isn't right. And they start coming against authority. And then they approach you with, I know you see that, man, because I can sense your spirit, man. You're pretty deep. So you can really see that these people are off. And that brings a wound in and of itself. But that's a false brother. That's some sneaky stuff.
And so through flattery, they draw you to themselves, right?
Yep. Yes.
In other words, they come against authority. Oh, yeah, but see, that wasn't right. That wasn't correct. The way he said that, the way he brought that out, you see, but the Bible says this, and what they do is they set themselves up as to be the authority for you, as opposed to who the established authority is, the church. Oh, absolutely.
There are people in the church who are trying to empty the church. Don't be fooled.
Oh, yeah.
Their assignment from hell is to go in and disrupt church. So, there are some churches where, as far as I'm not a pastor, but if you're starting to have an exodus out of your building, you might want to start looking at who you have in certain places, because that's cancerous, bro.
Absolutely.
You have a toxicity with a lot of people, man, that will kill your church. churches have closed over that stuff, man.
Man, I don't want to get into that because boy, I can go there. I know of some stuff that's going on in some churches in town right now that they need to look at. Who do they have?
Yeah.
Who's right next to them, because it's causing the judgment of God to fall on some of the leadership, and they're going through some stuff, and they need to look at that because you got some false brethren up in there.
Yeah.
But Dave, my first experience of false brethren was a pretty traumatic experience. I felt like I heard the call of God in my life, and so I did what everybody's supposed to do. When you're in the church and you feel like God is trying to get you to do something, you go to Bible college, right?
There you
And
go.
so I did. I went away to Bible college. I went to World Harvest Bible College in South Bend, Indiana, which was under Dr. Lester Sumrall. And I immensely respect him for the work that he
Very
did and the
much
things
so.
that he's done. He was an amazing
Very
man of
rare
God.
man. Yes, he
Yeah,
is.
I mean,
Was.
worldwide ministry
Yeah.
called Feed the Hungry that was distributing food and preaching the gospel to people all over
And
the world.
humble.
Oh yeah, amazing, right?
So humble, man. So instead of buying him $60 billion jets, he was buying $60 billion tankers to fill it full of food to go to Africa. We saw that. I remember that. So you want to do an offering because we're trying to buy a cargo ship so we can fill it full of food to send to the hungry? Come on, man.
Well, when the Iron Curtain fell, and many people we're talking to probably don't even know what that is, but when the Iron Curtain fell,
Yes.
and the formerly known as the USSR opened up, Feed the Hungry had the first cargo ships in the bay already, ready to move in order to distribute food to people who were starving because of the fall of communism. And so that was an amazing thing. And I was a part of that. So that was amazing. But here was my experience though. Went to Bible college, got into this Bible college. There are amazing men of God all over the place, right? And I'm in this Bible college. It's just a small Bible college. And I'm having no interactions with any of them. I'm just in the Bible college, and I have professors who are teaching me and doing stuff like that, but none of them were overly impressive in my mind. And who I wanted to know is I wanted to know these world-renowned, men of God who were teaching all over the world, right? And all of us as students wanted this. We wanted to have interactions, but there was not one time that Dr. Sumrall came and shared at the Bible college. Now we saw him every Sunday in church, but never once did he come to the Bible college to actually sit down and talk and mentor us, which is kind of what we expected to have happen, even though it didn't. And so we really wanted these things. Well, there was one guy who was on staff who was a doctor, not a MD, but a PhD, right? Yeah. And he started coming to the Bible college and talking to us students. And so we were really excited about this. This was somebody who was involved in the ministry, who was coming and just sitting down and eating with us and talking to us. And this guy took a liking to me and started really, sharing some things with me, like, hey, I think things are real tough. He was single. And so he was like, I got this apartment. If you want to go and just here's the keys, just go and you want to study, you can study there. So that way you don't have to deal with everything that's going on at the college. And I was like, man, cool. And he knew all of these and talked about all these men of God that I really.
And how old were you? Let people know how old you were then too.
22, 23, somewhere right in there. And so I was excited. I was, really excited about this. And I started to get to know this guy and man, he talked so powerfully, he knew, but he started doing some of these things right here, grumbling against authority. He started sharing with me things that weren't right in the ministry and all this stuff. And he started exalting himself and I started listening to him. And before I know it, I ended up finding out this guy was not even a doctor. He had never got a PhD. He had lied all the way through and they found him out. The ministry found him out and they kicked him out. But see, I was already so ingrained in this whole situation that he had convinced me that this was all because of something that he was doing that was godly and they were pushing him out. And so I took his side and I got all caught up in this whole thing. And I almost got kicked out of Bible college because of this, because I went before the dean, and the dean was like, listen, you got to leave. You got to get away from this dude. And I'm like, wait, but he's saying this, look, shut up. And you need to get away from it. And they didn't really, give me any space to actually talk through it with me, because they were embarrassed at the situation. So all these things like kind of built up, and I experienced tremendous hurt in the situation, not only because those in leadership wouldn't listen to me and talk through it and give me a space to like say, okay, here's what's going on, here's what's happening. Because of legal reasons, he was employed with them. They couldn't do that. And so I was in a really weird space. But then on the other side, here's this guy who is manipulating me and showing me all this stuff. So long story short, this guy ended up getting like deathly sick and ended up leaving. And I believe that was the grace of God, that God's judgment was on him, because he was false brethren, but the leadership handled it. Say what?
He hit about all three of the faults.
Oh my gosh. And but the leadership handled it so poorly that I ended up hurt on multiple sides. I was hurt by being betrayed by this person and lied to, but I also was hurt by being handled harshly by authority when I didn't know any better. I was 23 years old. I came here to learn the Bible. I came, and so I ended up having to struggle through all of this mess, that was very, very difficult. And it was because this guy was false. This guy had snuck in trying to gain advantage.
He had on his sheep clothes.
Yeah. But inwardly, he was ravenous. He was trying to devour, and he was using me. He ended up stealing like thousands of dollars from my parents. In this whole, it was crazy. It's a very long story that I don't want to get into, but it's a story of church hurt. I was in Bible college, and I ended up leaving Bible college partway through because of the whole situation and what went on, and how it had labeled me as one of those malcontents with them. And I didn't know any better. I was just like, I thought I trusted him because of who he was attached to you.
Yeah. Right.
And so understanding that you can go through all of this hurt, and you gotta process that, man. It took me a while.
I'll ask you a question then.
Yeah.
Monday morning quarterbacking.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel that should have been handled? What would have helped someone in your situation back then being handled differently?
Well, I think first of all, the ministry should have taken responsibility that the only reason I was in this situation is because of you. Okay. And the fact that you didn't see it.
And he was an employee, right?
He was an employee. He was high up. He was a director in Feed the Hungry. And so from that standpoint, they should have taken responsibility for that and say, hey, look, we understand that you're in this situation because we screwed up. But see, they were embarrassed, and they didn't want to do that. And then there was some legal stuff that they couldn't do, but they could have come down and said, hey, we want to apologize to you that you were in this situation. This is what we found out. This is what's wrong. And how can we help you get out of this situation? It should have been the conversation rather than rebuking me like I should have known better.
Right.
No, he fooled you just like he fooled me, from that standpoint.
And you're the younger, you know what I'm saying? These were the people you're actually talking about. Some of them were Dr. Sumrall's children trying to handle that situation.
Yeah.
I remember that, man. So that's a really tough when they just basically tell you to, it's like parents, don't do as I do as I say. We try to translate that over into the religious world, which brings up a really good point, because I want everybody out there to know that church hurt is a real term, but so is the next level of that, which is religious trauma syndrome. That is a legit deal. And it goes to a whole nother level, but I kind of like the key word, religious.
Right. Christianity has become a religion, and that it was never supposed to be. Ooh. It was never supposed to be a religion. It's supposed to be a relationship, and it's supposed to be a relationship between you and your Lord, your creator, your master, period. It was never supposed to be this whole organizational structure that somehow developed into a world religion. It was never supposed to be that, because a religion is man's attempt to rise to the point where he can be accepted by God. Whereas Christianity is just the opposite. It's God condescending to man to lift man up. And so totally different. They are not the same. People
Right.
who draw connections between Mohammedanism and the Muslim world and Christianity and Buddhism and all that stuff, you don't understand the heart of it. You don't understand the heart of the message. And that's part of the problem.
Yep.
And so when you get down into the heart of the message is that Jesus, who is God, came down and rescued us. Nowhere else. None of the other religions have anything like that.
That's right.
And so they're very, very different. And I
You
love
just
what
said
somebody said. Somebody
Uh,
said it this way: look, you can believe that Jesus was either the Son of God and was absolutely right, or he was absolutely insane or a heretic.
Yep.
Because there is no middle ground.
Yep. There isn't. None.
There is no middle ground.
He's either the way, the truth, and the life, or he's not.
Or he's not at all. He was absolutely a liar.
Yep.
And he's one of these people that we call false prophets. You either have to
Yep.
believe that. You can believe, well, he was a prophet of God, but
he wasn't the savior of the world.
He wasn't the savior. No, because he said straightforward that he's either that or he's a complete liar. And I think that that's important to understand. But wanted to go back really quick, because one of the things that I did in that situation, which I think is important, is, I had this guy that I was dealing with who was a doctor who
wasn't a doctor.
Who wasn't a doctor, but yet that's what we all called him, Doc. We called him Doc. That was his nickname. And so he was telling me that it was all of these other, like Dr. Sumrall's sons, and it was, all these people who were on staff who were trying to protect themselves, and that's why they were kicking him out. And so what I did is I went straight to Dr. Sumrall. I went straight to him. And so in service, he was walking out. I walked around and I stopped him right there. Didn't have an appointment, nothing. I just said, "Hey, can I talk to you for a second?" And it was the breakthrough moment for me when I did that, when I went straight to the person that they were lying about. And I said, "Hey, what is this situation?" And he was like, "No, this is absolutely false." And he kind of rebuked me, which I wish he hadn't of.
All right.
But it illuminated the whole thing to me. And at that moment, I knew.
But his heart was different that's a different rebuke when it comes from his heart. Okay.
Yeah,
see, that has a different spirit behind it.
Well, it exposed all the lies. It exposed everything. And then all of a sudden I saw it for what it was. And that's when I got out. That's when I cut off, any kind of connection with this doc. And I went, I still was hurt and I had to deal with the hurt. Right. But the thing you need to do is you need to go to the person you're afraid of being rejected by and go straight to them.
But, I'm going to add this, because let's deal with religion. Let's deal with religion, because I love your advice, but that's so rare, because in this religious world, you can't get to the pastor.
Oh yeah, you can.
No,
you can.
Man, that's not true. That is not true, bro.
Well, but here's the thing,
there's a lot of Bogarting going on. Like, well, you can see so-and-so. Pastor's too busy. You're not going to get to the pastor, but we'll let you talk to the assistant. That's good enough. Just share your concerns.
When they were trying to get to Jesus, and I'm not making that type of comparison, but I am saying this, when they were trying to get to Jesus, and they were trying because they had this guy who was lame, they tore a hole in the roof.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They tore a hole in the roof and they lowered him down. They were willing to go outside of the official way of dealing with this. So don't be calling the church secretary. If you call the church secretary and you can't get through to the pastor, show up at his house. Who is he?
And I do want to do a disclaimer on the account of Outcast Chronicles that some of that stuff will get you thrown in prison. So Brian's a little passionate right now, so I am pulling our podcast away from potential jail time.
This
because
is
you can't
supposed to
really
be.
do that. That's not normal. You can't
I
just
don't
show up
believe
at
that.
somebody's house. That's probably a very quick way to get a visit from the police.
Come on, man. Seriously, you
Yeah,
are somebody who attends somebody's church and you can't go knock on that door and be like, "Excuse me, can I have a conversation with you? Because I've been trying to get a hold of you and I can't, and I really need to talk to you."
but you
Now
you
you can
missed
do it
my original
respectfully.
point.
Pardon?
You missed my original point,
Which is what?
which was religion.
Yeah.
So everything you're saying, you're acting like it's all based on relationship. I'm
Hey,
talking about religion.
listen, man, if you do that and they call the cops on you, you know exactly where they stand.
Oh, absolutely.
You know exactly where they stand.
Honestly, though, it shouldn't even take that for you as an individual, though.
Bro,
It
check it
shouldn't
out.
take that.
Check it out. Okay, so number 4, right? We hit false prophet, false teacher, false brethren. Here's the last one. Hireling.
Hmm.
Hireling, right? And Jesus in John 10, 11 and 12, he says, the good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep, right? But he who is hired or a hired hand and not a shepherd sees the wolf and leaves the sheep and flees. And the wolf snatches them, and the sheep are scattered, right? And then in Matthew 18 and Luke 15, Jesus tells the story of the good shepherd. He says that the good shepherd leaves the 99 and goes after the one, but the hireling won't. The hireling's more concerned about the whole flock and the fact that they are a part of profit, right? But see, the good shepherd, it's about the passion for every single person. And that's where it goes down to. You go knock on somebody's door and be like, "Hey, I need to talk to you. I've been trying to get a hold of you. I can't." Right? You show up when they're getting ready to leave and show up at their car and be like, "Hey, can I talk to you?" See, I
Ooh,
know,
we are on two different ends of this scale, boy.
Dave,
Man,
I don't care.
please be
Okay.
careful, man.
Listen,
I'm just
I'm
telling
not,
people to be careful.
come on, man. We're talking
Dude.
about,
But why
we're
should
talking
it
about
take
somebody
all of
who is
that?
being paid to be a shepherd
Yeah.
and
But
you're
why
a
should it
sheep
take
in
all
their
of that?
flock. Wait a minute. And you're a sheep in their flock and they won't talk to you.
Right. So you should be intelligent enough to make up a decision without all of that extra drama you about to bring on you. You about to bring the herd on you.
You know what? But you might need some of that drama. You might need to go through it. You might need to see, for real, see, so that it's not plaguing you the rest of your life. Like, well, I
Yeah,
just
you'll
left
see that.
and maybe it was supposed to, maybe I just missed God, you know, and now the reason I'm not being blessed is because I missed God and I'm still supposed to be there. And listen, I know people who have gone back and forth and back and forth. They get hurt, they leave, they come back,
They
right?
get
Because
hurt.
this is where I'm supposed to be, you know, and then they get hurt again.
Yeah.
And they just get this in this whole cycle. And it's like, you got to break the cycle. And part of breaking that cycle is get real. Stop playing games. Stop playing the religious game. Stop following all of the religious BS and
Right.
go straight to the source. Look, you're supposed to be my pastor. Why can't we have a conversation? Do you know me? How do you not know me?
Oh man, but you going real deep. You getting real deep.
See,
But
now you're making me feel bad. You make me feel like I'm crazy. But listen, if
well, it's the whole piece of where I'm at with church.
we started talking about discipleship, Dave,
Yeah.
that's where we started this conversation, discipleship. How do you disciple somebody you don't know?
Right. There is no discipleship. That's not discipleship.
Then you're a part of a religion and you are not a part of the church.
So in that case, what I want to say with what you just said is wake up, people.
Yeah.
Wake up.
Yeah.
Because it's religious. It's sad because so much of what's happening in America with our ideal of theology and religion, we're losing the aspect of that because so much to say it's Christianity and they won't label it as religion. But unfortunately, Christianity is falling down that same tube and it's becoming religious because they've adapted so much of the Industrial Revolution philosophy, because it's now, like you said, it's an organization, not an organism. So there's proper channels in an organization versus an organism. And so that's the problem. And that's where people need to wake up. And that's why I said earlier, what COVID has done for individuals, not the disease, but the effects of it, I believe is waking people up to what's religion and what's not. Because I had a hard time with churches for years, for the last 10 years minimally, have dogged people who didn't go to church. They dogged you for watching online and not coming to be a part, to not fellowship with the saints, to not come and serve. Like, oh, you're going to receive all this, but you're not going to give back. And so you need to come here and serve for free, because we need employees that we don't pay. That's how this thing works. So we need people to come in so we can continue this multi-million-dollar organization on the backs of people who do it for free, but that's how we make our money. And so where I have a hard time with is that we've created all these different channels, just like corporate America. You're not going to go knock on Elon Musk's door without getting shot at or having the police show up. You're not, you got a problem with Elon Musk, you're not going to do his crib. That's not going to happen. So the church has turned out to be no different. So my point is, religion, Christianity is turning religious. It's turning into a religion, but it has to. On the mere fact
for a long time, man.
Because we have to get to a one world government and a one world religion and a one world monetary system. So we have to be considered a religion so we can fit into the rest of them. It's these other people who are blazing a trail by living and listening to God and staying hungry, and they're out there ministering, they're out there discipling one another, they're out there fellowshipping, they're studying together, they're breaking bread together. That to me, man, is so powerful. But when you're breaking bread with somebody, you actually know them. You're actually carrying conversation. You're actually watching them laugh and spit out food. You're actually watching them take a drink and they dribble on their shirt. You're getting real. But you can't have real when you're up on stage and you have nothing to do with 90% of the people in your congregation unless they cutting you a big check. You'll go out to dinner with them that are giving millions to your ministry, or they get your attention. Don't get me started. I gotta stop.
And you were saying I was getting in trouble. Okay.
I know it.
Let me throw a disclaimer out there for Outcast Chronicles, because this is not the
Oh my gosh, don't repeat anything I just said.
Yeah, okay.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I want that in there, bro. I want it, man. Because and at the end of the day, especially with a religious trauma syndrome or church hurt, where you and I we could be at odds on some different philosophies, but where we are so passionate about is we're begging you, man, don't leave the Father. Don't leave God. Don't allow everything Jesus did for you to be influenced by humanity. That's what hurts you and I, because we've had the experience. We could not be here very easily. Both of us could not be here at all.
I've been through some stuff, man.
Yes, you have, more than me on the religious aspect, because I kind of pulled away a long time ago, man, because I was seeing things I did not like. But you know, your heart was passionate, man. I believe you have a pastor's heart, and that's a tough place to be, to have a pastor's heart, according to everything you was reading about what a pastor's supposed to do. And the heart of a pastor, that's a tough place to be in, and to be ostracized because you're actually trying to help people. That's tough, man. You're actually willing to meet people, you know, because and the reason why I threw out that disclaimer and why I want people to make decisions without that much drama is you can't just, some things you just have to really ask God about what you're seeing. If that is your experience somewhere that you cannot get a hold of your pastor, or your pastor will not spend time with you, then I highly recommend you make some adjustments in your life according to that, but don't leave God. Don't feel like you have to stay at that church either.
Well, and I agree with you. I agree with you. I just think as someone who's been through the deep, deep deception of it, like when you are in it, the deception is so deep that you feel like you're going crazy because somebody's telling you one thing and then nothing is jiving with it. And so you are in this place where you feel so confused. You feel like, I don't know what to believe. I don't know what's real. And so to say, well, you should just make a decision, or you should just, it's sometimes it's not that easy. It's very, very hard to sit there and say, okay, I'm just going to pray and I'm going to hear God in this situation, because you're just like, I don't know what to believe. I don't know whether I even have a relationship with God. I don't even know if I make sense or if I'm crazy. I don't even understand. And so sometimes you have to push it to that extreme. And that's why I said that. That's why I went to Dr.
Yeah.
Sumrall. I didn't know what to believe. I was praying hours and nothing was making sense to me. And that's why I went straight to him. And I had people tell me, because there was a guy who was in it as deep as me. And I was like, I'm just going to go talk to Dr. Sumrall. He said, don't do that. Don't do that. You know? and I was like, listen, I need to know what's going on here, man, because I'm about to lose my mind. And so I went straight to him. And you know what? It didn't go the way I wanted it to. It was not warm and fuzzy.
Right. He didn't give you a hug.
No, man, it was a rebuke. It was harsh. It hurt. But even in all the harshness and it was illuminating.
That's good.
All of a sudden I saw it for what it actually was. And then I could make decisions. And that's all I'm saying. I mean, so you might go through some stuff. People might get angry. You might get thrown on the floor. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I mean, people got security.
Or you might get personally
Pastor
walked
got
out
himself
of church.
some security, you know? It's like, yeah, I understand. But you know what? At that moment, you will recognize the truth. You will see it.
That's good.
It might be painful, but you will see it. And then you don't have to think about it anymore. Then you don't have to sit back and go, well, I wonder if, and
no regrets at that point.
Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just, I'm just messed up on the inside, and it's the devil messing with me and all this other stuff. But you know what? Church hurt is real. People make mistakes. There are such things as hirelings, people who are put in positions and they're doing it for their own benefit and their own gain. And you know what? God uses them.
Yeah.
And
I want to add this, because this is very important as far as learning. So let's say they don't do what you're saying, but what if they do like what I'm saying? Like, what I'm saying? I'm seeing some weird stuff. I'm going to pull out. And then you go to another church. But listen, though. So then you go to another church and a similar thing happens. Then you go to another church and so eventually, I hope you also have the wisdom to go, okay, maybe this is me. Right. You start going about you hit about 3 different churches and you're hearing the same thing. You need to make some adjustments. It's not them. They could still have things wrong, but you got some problems, man. So that's something to realize too, is if you want to find out, go ahead and leave. But if you end up in that same boat and you got some stuff you need to have healed or fixed, or you need deliverance for whatever you're dealing with, because you don't want that on repeat, man.
Or I'm gonna throw something else out there and then I'm done. Okay. Here's the other side of it. God might be speaking to you specifically of something he wants you to do, and you're looking for somebody else to approve of what God is telling you to do. And you're not finding that approval because you don't need it. If God approves of it and he's telling you, do it, and you'll find out really if it was God or not when you get out there and you jump out there. See, some people just won't do that because they're afraid of failure. But you know what? God catches us in failure.
Sure does, man. Failure is a part of life, dude. There is no success without failure.
If you're pursuing God because you really just want to do what God is telling you to do, and you go out there and you try something and it wasn't God after all, he'll catch you.
Yeah.
He'll catch you.
If your heart is right. If your heart is right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely.
Even if your heart isn't right, man. If you're a child, he is not going to let you smash on the rocks.
You're right. Yeah. Yep, you're absolutely, because I mean, you put yourself in the scenario when you were 23 and 24. You put yourself in that at 50, you would have handled that completely different.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have had more maturity. I wouldn't have thought so highly
Yes.
of people. I
Yep.
wouldn't have idolized people the way I
Yep. So
did,
I agree
you
with
know.
you. Yeah. As
So
a
I learned
child,
things.
God will catch you, man. He
Yeah.
really will. He is so faithful. He is so faithful to us, man. And you said earlier, like Ed Cole said, faithful man is faithful to repent. If you drop the bomb, then by all means, just go, yep, I messed up, man. I called that wrong. And that goes back to like false prophets admitting, hey, I blew it. I love
Right.
people like that. But you're going to stand in your office and you're as wrong could be, and you won't admit it. Man, you talking about pride. So I agree 100%, man. So I'm really hoping really, I hope we really conveyed a good message, man, and to let people know that this stuff is real. And if you are really hurting, we highly recommend, you might need to go see a psychologist, a counselor. There's nothing wrong with that, people. Man, you're struggling trying to hear God and you need an adjustment, then go somewhere. There are so many Christian counselings. And the thing that COVID did is open the door for doctors to talk to you online, psychologists to do everything online. You can find a great Christian psychologist in California and you live in Pennsylvania, and you can still get help. So our thing is we're also not taking light of church hurt. It's a real thing. And so, but sometimes you need to talk this out with people who are non-biased, and it will help you heal. So by all means, and that's stuff that me and Brian were not very big at years ago, man. We never even talked about psychology. I know I needed one. Lord Jesus, know I needed one. But I operated in this.
You needed? Oh, no, I was playing.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I really need a psychologist. And so, with that, you learn. So because everything we're sharing, man, we've made a lot of mistakes. Man. And like Brian said, the one thing me and Brian can sit here today and tell you that God will catch you. God will, man. He'll put the right people in your path, man. You just don't give up on God. That's all we're asking.
And
Right?
don't look down on desperation, because you can be desperate and God loves desperation. And if you'll run to him, he'll meet you.
That's good.
He will meet you. So you do need to connect with other people. There, all of us need others. Yes. None of us mature in a vacuum, right? None of us mature by ourselves. We mature when other people are interacting upon us. So like Dave said, get to a counselor, get to somebody who you respect and you'll listen to, right? And you'll hear and you can bounce stuff off to. But number two, up your prayer life. Man, get in there. You might need to go away for a little bit, take a vacation that's not a family vacation, where you just go off into a cabin and it's just you and there's no TV, there's no phone, there's no nothing. And you fall on your face and you cry out to God and you say, heal me. He will meet you. He will meet you there.
That's awesome, man.
So let that happen. Because I mean, all of us had to do it. We had to do it. We had to get healed. We've been through some stuff. There is hope. There is healing.
Amen. Yeah, absolutely.
If you need prayer for anything, drop it in the comments, man. We'll pray for you.
Absolutely.
Anything we can do. So thanks so much for joining us today for Outcast Chronicles. Hopefully something that we shared was good and it wasn't just a rant on our part, because this is a deeply passionate area.
And it's a very sensitive subject.
Yeah, a lot of people have experienced this, and we are no exception. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. God bless you.